my philosophy in starting this company is the two P's, people and process. I think in business, a lot of times we can be like, well, what about profit, right? That's the third P, right? Or we're like, hey, we want profit to be the main P, and there's the two little small P's like people and process, or we don't even think about that. We just think about profit, right? But if we want to build a foundation, if we want to build a business that's solid, that has a good culture, that people and process to me is so key. Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Own the Exit, our entrepreneurial podcast. I'm your co host, Aaron. We don't have Caleb with us today. He's actually on a mastermind call talking with a bunch of capital raisers. And so I wanted to jump in and do this short podcast for you guys. Just been a, entrepreneur and a business owner and have started a lot of businesses, 10 or 12. Some of them have been unsuccessful or smaller ones, I should say. I started an advertising company, and we bought these contracts in these different cities where we could, advertise on bus benches and bus shelters, with, on the backs of bus benches. And it was just, I didn't have the right people. I was trying to do it remotely. I was literally going through the yellow pages, calling businesses. I started at A and worked my way through just calling people during business hours on their work line. And it was very bad. I didn't know how to do sales. I didn't know the appropriate way to talk with people. It wasn't face to face. That was one business, and it kind of just, that contract expired, and we didn't make any money on that. There's been a few different ventures that I've been a part of that were unsuccessful, but it's all a learning experience, and then there's some, business ventures that have been successful. And so I guess today I just wanted to talk for a couple minutes about what I call the two P's. And so this is, a construction company that I started, and with a team. I got a construction manager, a project manager. We got a field foreman, and we have a finance person. So we've got a small team, really, really good people. And basically, my philosophy in starting this company from the beginning is the two P's, people and process. And so I think in business, like a lot of times we can be like, well, what about profit, right? That's the third P, right? Or we're like, hey, we want profit to be the main P, and there's the two little small P's like people and process, or we don't even think about that. We just think about profit, right? But I guess, just sharing from my perspective, from like a long-term mindset, right? Or a long time approach. Like if we want to build a foundation, if we want to build a business that's solid, that has a good culture, that has a good kind of way of doing business, where the people kind of want to be working there, and where you're set up for long-term success, where people want to do business with you, and it's not like brain damage every day for everyone. That people and process to me is so key. And so for this company that we started, we renovate multifamily apartment buildings, end to end renovations. We do the units, we do everything outside. We take care of the end to end servicing of multifamily, for owners and operators. I guess when I started the business, I literally said, "Hey guys, the goal for this year, the first year that we're starting this business, is not to make any money." And we actually achieved that goal. We didn't make any money in the first year, but it was all about people and process. So it was about defining the roles within the business and making sure that the right people are in those roles. And then figuring out the processes for bidding, for the construction management, for the finance side of things, for all of the different processes in the business, refining those and having those two things running smoothly. That was just my driving, passion with this business. And my priority was focusing on those two things and not worrying about money. And thankfully I had money from another business that I was able to kind of throw in there and just kind of get some startup capital, right? But as I've had conversations with people, and as I've thought through this, and just seeing the wisdom even of focusing when you on the people and process, because the profit is just a byproduct of that. And I think of, my analogy is a tree, right? Like profit is the fruit that grows on a tree. So it's like photosynthesis. If you've got sunlight, if you've got oxygen, if you're watering that tree is going to bear fruit. And that's kind of how I view profit or money. I've said this to the team, money is a byproduct. Our goal is not, yes, we want to make a profit. So I guess it's our goal, but it's not what we're fixated on. We're fixated on the people in the process because, if you have a sick tree or a tree that's rotten or the roots are shallow or you don't water it or it's a bad tree, it's not going to bear fruit, or if it does, it's going to be bad fruit or not a lot of fruit. Whereas if you're really focused on that tree, right, with those roots going deep, with getting that tree like very established, that fruit is just going to be a byproduct. That's been something that I've kind of been growing in my understanding. And it's so easy in business or even in work, or you think about 95% of the people in this world, they're just fixated on money, right? They're fixated on, paycheck to paycheck. And I get that. But at the same time, it's like taking a step back, taking a longer term kind of perspective and kind of looking at it like, building that foundation so that fruit will just grow and that fruit will just be a byproduct and that fruit will just kind of naturally kind of just come, right? And so, I'm thinking about even like our finance manager, she has a background in banking. She was working with a large profit organization doing all of their like donor relations and admin and has big capacity, right, to do bookkeeping and all these things. And our processes with the business were so bad that she was in tears at times. And she was questioning her own abilities. And she was like, I'm the wrong person for this job. Those were her words. She's like, there's no way. Like she couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel because all she could see was how bad it was. And she was stuck in the day to day bad processes of the way, because we took on like $7 million worth of construction projects, with no processes. We didn't have anything set up and it was just dumped on us. And it was hardcore as a brand new company without having the right people or the right processes in place, and was just way too much work all at once that got dumped on us. And she was like, I'm the wrong person for this job. But in my mind, I was thinking like, I actually had a conversation with her. I said, hey, if you quit, can you please help me find a replacement who is exactly the same as you? Has the same skill sets, has the same temperament, has the same aptitude, because I actually think you are the right person for this job. It's not you that's the problem, it's the processes. And so, sure enough, we worked. I mean, we had our whiteboards out and we were just grinding through these processes. And I was, as the owner of the company, fighting to make sure that, all those processes were implemented, right, and were upheld and would become ingrained with how we do things so that it was smooth for everyone. I was trying to remove that friction. And after a few months went by, I told her that it was going to be a certain amount of hours per week, and she didn't believe me that the job could be that many hours per week because the processes were so bad. She was just completely overwhelmed. But sure enough, when we got our processes good, her job began. She was like, wow, I feel empowered. I feel in control. I feel like I am the right person for the job. I feel like I can take ownership over this and I'm doing a really good job, because she's amazing as a person, right? But it was a bad process. And so I think like as a business owner or when you're starting a business, it's like identifying, people and process, right? So it's getting the right people in the right roles, but it's also defining those roles and working out those company processes so that those people aren't just exasperated. And I've as an entrepreneur, I've exasperated people before, not happy about that. But like if you start something and you just dump things on people that are on your team or whatever because you've got this great idea, and it's just really hard. And so basically that's just, I'm just kind of sharing a little bit about this construction company, and hopefully you can glean some things from this. But yeah, people and process. And I think too, like you have to, it takes a little bit of time sometimes to determine like, do I have a bad person? And by bad, I don't mean they're, intrinsically bad. I just mean bad for that role. Do I have a bad person, or is it a bad process? right? And so you can have amazing people in the wrong role who are just friction or fighting or just going against the grain of their natural aptitude, or the process is just simply really bad on the company side. So you've got to fix those processes, and then you have to have those right people, and then you need to match everything up. And when you do, the third P, right, which is profit, is a byproduct of that. So I firmly believe that. Not that it's just happens. I mean, it's business, right? It's hard. There's business failure a lot of times. There's many, many challenges. However, I think having that as the foundation, the people in the process, is so key to stay focused on that and to say, you know what, if we can just work to refine that, to make sure we have the right people in the right roles and the right processes that are running smoothly, and just be humble as a business owner. Don't have a big ego. Don't be like, we got to do it my way. I mean, that's just complete nonsense. Like, you have to just be open to, like, guys, you guys are working in that role. So you help me, like, inform me, like, tell me what the pain points are in your role, in your job. You're doing it day to day. Give me that feedback. Let's try to fix it. Let's try to make it where we streamline that. And it's not like every day is going to be easy, right? I get it. We're all working. There's going to be challenges. It's a job. But let's remove that unnecessary friction. Let's try to streamline things as the best that we can. Have the right people in the right roles. And a prime example of this is one of the first, people that ever joined my team at my real estate company, was very, very good at admin, bookkeeping. He was an executive assistant. He's still with me like 6 years later. Phenomenal. But he didn't like being on the sales side. And so there was a kind of role that I had for him, or we did something where I was asking him to help me with kind of sales and outreach. And he did not like doing that. He was miserable doing that role. And I realized, like, this is an amazing person, phenomenally gifted, but I'm making them do something that they're not wired for. And so why would I do that, right? Like, I need to put that person in that role that they are wired for, that they're going to be successful at, that they feel an aptitude for. So I think that's really important. So, it's the same thing about me. I mean, just when you're an entrepreneur or whatever, starting a business, recognize your own strengths and weaknesses, and then set yourself up so you're staying within your role. And if that means delegation or outsourcing or bringing on team members to fill roles or areas maybe where you're weak, it's important to do that so you can kind of stay in your power alley. And the idea of wearing multiple hats and all these things, that's how it is when you start, right? A business. You're the only guy or girl. You're wearing all the hats. But then you want to kind of start defining out those roles and start getting everybody in their right spots, right? So that everyone's kind of in their lane. And so again, people and process, I think that's good. I think we need to just keep that, as the focus, right? And it can be scary because sometimes there's cash flow problems and there's not money, and it's easy to get short-sighted. It's easy to get into that check to check mindset because it's a reality. We need money daily, but trying to fight for that longer term mindset, the people in the process, the right team, the right processes, so that long term there's that growth and there's that byproduct and there's that money that comes as a result. All right, guys, this was On the Exit. Just kind of a little short episode for you guys today. Solo episode. I'm Aaron, one of your co-hosts on the Exit. Hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.